So let's start third day with a recap on the last 2 days. So in the last week, whatever we covered, let's have a recap of that. I will appreciate if you can recollect and start talking about what we covered, and then I backfill if something is missed out there. Will that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
So we started with projects. What basically is a project? It's a temporary endeavor to create that creates a unique product or result.
Right. So project and project management. Okay.
Yeah, we covered the difference between portfolio, project, program, and project, and the difference between project and operations. And we discussed the different types of organizational structures like functional, matrix, and project types.
Right. We also discussed about PMO.
Yeah, and we discussed about the project life cycle and phases.
Project life cycle and phases, right? So project life cycle is comprised of initiation,
planning, initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and the closing.
Right. Okay, and the phases, when we talk about overlapping and discrete phases, right?
Yes, yes.
So there is something which we do between the phases. Do you recollect?
Between
the phases. When we switch from one phase to, when we close the previous phase and go to the next phase,
kill gates.
Do some checks.
Kill gates.
Kill gates, yes. Stage gates, kill gates.
Yes.
Right. Go ahead. So we talk about phases. What's more?
We discussed about integration management, how to integrate, how to synchronize among all processes. So which begins with the project, which begins with the project charter first, developing the project charter.
But we also talk about the complete framework of project management, that is the 5 knowledge, 10 knowledge areas and 5 processes, and how they are, or how they come out in a matrix form. Every process.
We also talked about
every process is in one knowledge area and one process group, right? Belongs to one knowledge area and one process groups. Can we recollect what knowledge areas we would talk about?
Integration, scope, time, cost,
right?
Quality, human resource, procurement, risk.
Procurement.
Yeah.
Stakeholders.
Stakeholders. Risk.
Risk, yes.
And communication.
Communication, communication, yes.
So what is there in the first stage, that is the initiation? What processes are there in initiation?
Project charter is the first thing.
Yeah, project charter is not the process. Project charter is the outcome of the first. Okay, yes. Say develop project charter. Okay, project charter is the first process. Fine. What is the other process in initiation group?
Develop the project charter, then you develop a project management plan.
Project management plan is the planning part. Is a part of the planning process.
Project manager is allocated and resources are provided.
That is a part of the project charter. I say in initiation process there are two processes in initiation process groups. One is project charter, which is part of the project integration management, and what is the other process?
Yeah.
Stakeholder management is identification, right? And a stakeholder analysis,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Identify stakeholder or say identify or analysis. I think the planning, what is there in the planning process group?
We develop different types of plans like project management plan, scope management plan, schedule, cost management plan.
For all the knowledge areas, there is a management plan, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are two more plans besides these knowledge areas. What are those? It's not an exam, so you can refer the slides if you want. It's a matter of recollecting and connecting the two, the gap of 2 weeks. Oh, sorry, 1 week. Gap of the 1 week. The other ones are, one is change management plan, right? Integrated change control has a change management plan. So that change management plan is another part of project management plan. Another thing is that is the configuration management plan. And in the risk, there are two plans. One is risk management plan and another plan is a risk response plan. So besides 10 management plans, there are 3 more. So there are total 13 plans which come under project management plan.
Risk response plan and risk mitigation plan is the same thing?
No, risk management plan is different than risk response plan. We don't say mitigation plan, we say risk response plan.
I have heard the expression risk mitigation also.
Yeah, that is also right. That is a part of the response. So mitigation is one of the, it's a one response, one type of response. Because it is commonly known, so many times the response is also like interchanged in a common language with the mitigation. So mitigation, people say mitigation means responding to risk. But mitigation is a specific type. It is specific. We will, when we come to risk management, we will see the difference between the other response plan also.
Okay.
When people say project, risk mitigation plan means many times they are referring to response plan. Not always, but many times. This is the planning process group, right?
Yes.
So when we say management plan, what does it really mean? You say scope management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, risk management plan. What these plans are exactly? What is the basic contents of? Means broadly, I just want to know what is the intent of these plans.
Whenever we prepare a project plan or anything, or whether we are talking about the scope, so all the details about the scope, how we are going to handle the scope, how we gather the scope, all the details will be there in the scope management plan. Same if I talking about the quality management, so how we are going to manage the quality, what will the other parameters, what are defect, how we are going to track. So when we talk about any plan, everything has to be mentioned here in the project management plan, and these are the sub scope sub para of that main project management plan.
Right. So management plan actually address the how part for the team. So how, like when say scope management plan or requirement management plan means how team is going to define the scope, what are the parameters the team will consider in creating a work breakdown structure, what is the process of validating scope, what are the tools, techniques they are going to use for scope controlling the scope. So these are the directions for the project team to do rest of the process in that particular knowledge area. So like plan scope management. So it contains collect requirements, contains define scope, it contains create WBS, it contains validate scope, it contains control scope. So how from 5.2 to 5.6 will happen, that is written in 5.1, and that's applicable to all the knowledge areas. So what are the various processes in execution? What are the various processes in execution process?
Direct and manage project work.
Right. Direct the project work, which is a part of the integration management and central part of the.
Yeah, then perform quality assurance.
Yes, quality assurance is one of the execution phase process. Quality control is monitoring and control, but quality assurance is part of execution. Okay, what else? Anyone can speak up. Many of the all the other processes of human resource management, acquiring the team, developing the team, managing the team, right? All are like after planning, everything else is there in execution with respect to human resource management, correct? What else?
Then the communication management, how to manage the communication.
Right. So how to distribute information, etc. about the communication, right? So implementing the communication management plan, right? Managing the expectation of stakeholders.
That will be the last, yeah, stakeholder requirement.
Engaging the stakeholder in the project. And one is the procurement. And what are the processes in monitoring and control?
Management of risk.
Sorry?
I said management of risk can also be execution.
That comes into monitoring and control.
Okay.
So managing, that is a like risk. We act on the plan actually if the risk materializes. So our job is to continuously watch the new risk are getting identified, or old risk are expiring, or any trigger which is telling us that the risk is going to materialize. So it is actually a kind of control, not performing any work as such, but to continuously checking for it. That's the logic. What are the other processes in monitoring and control?
Monitor and control the project work and perform change control.
Change control, yes. Change management, perform integrated change control. Change management is one of the important one. Every knowledge area has minimum one controlling process, right? The scope has validated scope and control the scope.
Control schedule, the time management.
Sorry?
Control schedule for the time management.
Right. Control schedule for time management, control risk for risk management, control cost for cost management, controlling communication, controlling stakeholder engagement, controlling the procurement, doing auditing, etc. And last one is the closing process. So close the project, we often call it administrative closure also. And second is close the procurement. So basically close the procurement will happen first and then closing the project. Or for every phase we close the phase also, where we do our exit gate or kill gates or phase stages, etc. So ensure that the exit criteria of that phase is met, right? What was next? What was next?
Integration management.
Integration management, right?
Yeah.
What is the first process in integration management?
Developing the project charter.
Developing the project charter. And what is a project charter?
It depends the objective.
Yes.
What organization is looking for and the business case, why actually we are going ahead with this project.
Yes, why are we doing
It also identifies
correct?
who will be the project manager.
Right. And
Formally give the authorization to manager to engage the team.
authorizing the project manager to engage the project team or apply the organization resources on the project.
Correct.
Right.
Basically it's created by the sponsor, but anybody, project manager or expert can help to create the project charter.
Right, right. What else?
Project management plan.
Yeah, project management plan is part of the project management plan, and the
project charter links the requirements.
no, links the project strategy.
Project charter links the requirement to the objectives of the organization.
Yes, organization objective and ongoing work with the project. Right. It contains high-level budget, high-level milestone plan, any risk which you have identified so far, main stakeholders and their expectations. Right. These things are normally part of this project charter. I think project plan we have discussed quite in detail. What was the next after the project plan? We have project execution, right? that is the managing and directing the project work. So what mainly we are doing there?
Quality management, scope management, communication management.
Yes, so what exactly we do in the execution? We acquire the team, and the main thing in execution is producing deliverables by the team, right?
Yes.
And what is the other thing which is very important? Once we one side we produce the deliverables, and along with when we are producing deliverables, we also collect the data, execution data. So producing deliverables,
Matrix.
yes, and collecting the data. If data is not collected during execution, data is lost. We should change any new things you find, any correction or prevention is required, then we issue the change request also. Right? These are the main things which we do in direct and managing the project execution. So three things are standard: the deliverable, the work performance data, and the change request as an output of this. What next? Monitoring and control, right? What is there in the monitoring and control? Main things?
Monitoring and control project work.
Yes. So how do we do it?
Perform integrated.
We have collected the data from in the execution. We have the plan data. We compare them, analyze it, and produce project information, right?
Yes. And the variance, if anything.
Yeah. Project performance information, and then generate the report for distribution. That is the main thing. And every knowledge area has at least one process for controlling. So we keep on a regular basis, we check that whatever we have planned is happening in that particular knowledge area or not. Like risks are identified. So we do again and again that risks are identified, new risks are not there, old risk should be expired, and if any change in the response plan, etc. We look at the scope, if there is any change in the scope. We look at for the changes occurring in the project and see that change management plan should be taken care of. So every change occurs, it goes through change management process. If it doesn't go through change management process, then it is a scope creep basically, right?
Yeah.
Right? And similarly, we control the schedule, control the cost, control the communication, stakeholders. All the things are part of the monitoring and control project work. And the last one is the closing. So what is there in the closing? What are the three things, important three things in closing?
One, first is the deliverables should be passed to the next phase or the report or the lesson learned.
Yes.
Lesson learned with more to the historical thing.
Lesson learned and archiving the project. These are the part of the
Yeah.
close the process. So you get the project file, project transition to the next to the operations, and archive the project. Right? So let's get started with the scope management. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, did you hear me? No. Okay, let me repeat this. So scope management plan is all about.
No.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I was on mute actually. I didn't.
Yes.
check
Now
that.
we can.
So scope management plan is all about doing the work, what is there in the scope, and not doing the work which is out of the scope. So first ensuring that what is inside the scope and what is outside the scope, ensuring that all the work which is in the scope is done, and any work which is out of the scope should not be done. So both the sides are there. Inside the scope, everything should be done. Outside the scope, nothing should be done. And that is the main intent of the scope management. There are 6 processes, and the first process actually ensures that how to do the rest of the processes. 4 are part of the planning and 2 are part of the monitoring and control. So first thing come into picture is what is the product scope and what is the project scope and what is the difference. So the definition in front of you, but I would like to know in real term, what does it really mean? What is the difference between product scope and project scope? So when you can throw some light on this.
product is an final output which has some features which is required to have some features, whereas the project is the work that is needed to achieve that product.
For example,
Hello.
I say for example, like for a project work.
For example, for example, let me say somebody is building a bridge. Okay, the final bridge which is able to have 2 lanes or something is the final product. But the project is the entire exercise of building that bridge.
Okay.
That is according to me the difference between a product and a project.
Okay. Right. Any other deletion in this? Anyone want to add into this? Okay. So up to, yeah, I think because as such you are right, absolutely, that the final product, the function and the features of the final product are come into product scope. So if you are manufacturing a software, what kind of functionality it get implemented is a part of product scope. And if you're manufacturing any device, then how that device will look like and what exactly that device will do. These are part of the product scope. And project scope, like what all activities you take into to produce that product. For example, you will gather the requirements, you will do design, you will do development. So what all other things you will do in the development, what all different things you will produce during the project to produce the product. Like you have, whatever you have make the commitment, like you said, okay, every week I will send the project status report. So to comply with this will become a part of the project scope because you have committed that. So every week you should send project status report because it's a part of the project scope and you agree on that. So testing is one of the things, producing various deliverables to produce the final product. Those are all activities are project scope. Now what is there in the scope management plan? Basically when we say plan scope management, there are two things in the scope management, that is gathering the requirement and the second is the scope, defining the scope. So because gathering the requirement is quite a big work as such and goes quite like sometimes a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Therefore we have a separate, it is advised that separate requirement management plan can also be produced. Now it is understood by PMI and it is written in PMBOK and it should be understood by everyone that the way things are defined here in the discrete manner on the project, the process do not happen in the same discrete manner. I mean to say your project may not necessarily have a separate scope management plan and separate requirement management plan. You may be having one plan and addressing both the things. So here for the better understanding, we define a scope management plan as well as the requirement plan, but many projects, especially the smaller projects, may not have this separately. Similarly, the various process looks very discrete here because they need to be explained in that manner. But in the project, they may not be in such discrete form. They may be fused with each other, maybe overlapping with each other. So we should not get confused that how like PMI defined like this and we are doing differently. So in practical scenario, things may not appear exactly as defined here. But the whole idea is that you just see that there should be a scope management plan, there should be a requirement plan. Means both the things are addressed in the document. Whatever management plan we have produced, both the aspects are addressed there. So whatever activities we are doing, they are, or whatever approach we are taking in the project, it is already addressed in the management plan. That is our intent. We should look like that way. Okay, so we produce the input anyway. There are only two things there. One is the scope project management plan, which is actually the include these plans as well. And so any plan which is produced before that, and the project charter which is already developed. And basically the expert person who is expert of doing these things is used to do this, and he normally do this by interacting with the other people, holding some kind of meeting in group or in person. So what is the scope management plan actually contains? It contains that scope management plan contains that what is there in the product feature and what is there in the project feature. How we are going to define, what should be the structure of scope statement and what is the structure of the work breakdown structure. If we are talking about work breakdown structure, what is our criteria to decompose the work in smaller pieces, and up to what level we will do the decomposition. So these all things before we create work breakdown structure, we define it here that what we are going to do there, how we are going to control, where we will put our control accounts in the WBS, how we'll take what type of acceptance plan should be there and how we're going to take the acceptance. Similarly, in the requirement management plan, what are the various tools and techniques we are going to use for requirement gathering? What are the various activities we will like undertake to gather the requirement? The list of stakeholders, etc., to whom we are going to meet. If there is any change, how we are going to track that changes? How we are going to incorporate those changes? What is the criteria we will apply to prioritize the processes? What kind of matrix during the requirement management or to manage the requirements we are going to gather during the requirement gathering, and what will be the structure of the traceability matrix. These things are defined in the requirement management plan. These two things, scope management plan and requirement management plan,
one question,
will guide the remaining process in the scope management, right? Yes.
The question is that we have a lot of these tools and techniques which are used for, let us say, requirement gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could be questionnaires or interviews or whatever.
Right.
Or maybe reverse engineering can also be one of the things.
Right.
But, are these techniques and tools also mentioned or they are not?
Yes. So if when we go to the requirement, collect requirement, you will see a hell list of tools and techniques which are available to gather the requirement. Okay. In practice, you may be using few of them. In practice, because not every tool, see, they have given a list of what all possible tools are there. But in a particular project, you don't use like more than 2-3.
Yeah.
So whatever those 2-3 you should mention here. We are going to utilize these tools when we gather the requirement.
Okay.
Like suppose you are a manufacturer, and you have seen that there is a competitor who has launched a product. You want to produce a similar product. So you can say benchmarking I am going to use, because I will take the competitor's product, I will analyze its features, and I will prepare features of my future product based on what is the computer's product has. So this becomes a benchmarking technique. So we say, okay, we'll use benchmarking and we'll gather the requirements from by observing or by analyzing the competitor's product. So these things should be mentioned here. It should be very specific and exactly that how the team should do. Right? Now the first process after this is the collecting the requirement. Collecting the requirement means gathering requirement, analyzing them, documenting them, getting them approved, right? And what kind of requirement we should? All type of requirement related to the project. Either it is business related, either it is stakeholder related, solution related, performance related, quality related, timeline related, any requirement which is necessary for producing the or doing the project must be gathered and required and documented and must be approved. So if you see, there are various 11 tech tools and techniques are mentioned here to gather the requirement and analyze them. And input, you will see that there is a scope management plan, requirement plan, which we have just created in the previous process. Stakeholder management plan is also there because in gathering the requirement, stakeholders play a significant role, and therefore we should know who are the stakeholders. Therefore it comes in the initiation process. Who are the stakeholders participating in the requirement gathering? Right, so third and the fifth inputs are for that purpose. In the project charter, actually the direction and what exactly we need to do. The high level requirements which are mentioned in the project charter. So first technique is an interview. I think you are all aware what is interview. Go and meet the stakeholders and ask questions to gather the requirement. The second is focus group. So what is focus group? What is focus group? The focus group is about having a meeting of subject matter expert of the same function. So if a product has 3 functions and there are people around in this who are actually SMEs, then having the meeting among these stakeholders is called focus group meeting. Subject matter experts of same function. The another thing is facilitated workshop. So facilitated workshop means you are having a meeting with the cross-functional stakeholders. So 2 people from here, 2 people from here, 3 people from here come together and try to clarify on the cross-functional requirements or document the cross-functional requirements so that the very smooth products should come out and there should be no ambiguity among the various functions and they should work as one product as such. It shouldn't happen that one person prepared a 3-pin socket, another person prepared a 2-pin plug. So to remove such kind of anomalies, we should do the facilitated workshop where we call various subject matter expert of the various different function and come together and try to clarify and gather the cross-functional requirements. There is another thing called group activity techniques. So group creativity techniques are basically techniques that are used to collect requirements in a group. So normally requirements are like we talk about facilitated workshop, we talk about focus group. So there is some people coming together and discussing about requirements. Normally we call it brainstorming. If no structure is used, then it is a normally unstructured brainstorming. But the other process, if you see nominal group technique, Delphi technique, idea or mind mapping affinity, they give to some structure to the brainstorming. So more structured brainstorming is what the purpose of the other techniques, like nominal group. Nominal group by doing some voting kind of things. A Delphi technique is very important and quite effective also, especially when the people are not co-located. The people to whom you have to gather the requirement, they are not geographically co-located and they are different areas. In that case, Delphi technique is quite effective. In the other case also, if the people are co-located, the Delphi technique is still very useful. So in Delphi technique, what is done is that what Delphi technique guide that you prepare a questionnaire or survey. You prepare a questionnaire or survey and send to all the people you want to gather the requirement. But do not tell any of the stakeholders who other are involved. So nobody knows who other people are involved, and they give just their input on the questionnaire or the survey. So on a specific questionnaire or survey, you gather the requirement from the various people, and because they don't know each other, there is little bias. In a meeting, it's quite possible that the people get like a aggressive person can suppress the less aggressive person, but in such cases this doesn't happen. You get the honest opinion of all the people, and when you compile all this information, you get a very good idea of the requirements. Idea and mind mapping is basically idea mind mapping comes like this. This is a kind of diagram which help to group the ideas which are coming in the brainstorming. So if you have coming various ideas in brainstorming, to actually make out meaning of them, it is what we use this mind mapping. Amitabh, you have a question? Okay, and the affinity diagram is also the same. Instead of, this is very similar to this. There are bucket, and we define various parameters to put in bucket. So you have lot of ideas with you, and you don't know what to do with those ideas. They are so scattered, and so you apply some parameters and criterias, and start in the collection of all the ideas. You start putting some ideas here, some ideas in this. You apply some kind of parameter. It is very similar to this only. Here also you apply some parameter and categorize like this. Then further categorization. Here also you can do the further categorization. So this way you can sort out various ideas which have come from brainstorming into some meaningful information. So whole idea of group creativity techniques to give a structure to the brainstorming and do it more systematically and make out meanings from the various scattered opinions.
So what is the basic difference between mind mapping and affinity diagram?
They are invented by different people. First of all, affinity diagram is quite old, and mind mapping is little different, is a new one. But ultimately, if you get into very detail, they do the same. They solve the same purpose. The idea.
And which is more popular?
Say it again.
Which is more popular?
Nowadays mind map is popular. I'm not sure if anybody use affinity diagram. maybe some people using it, but mind map. Actually, what we do, FD diagram we apply when we gathered all the ideas in the brainstorming, and then we sort out those ideas. Mind map we can use when the discussion is happening. So now, if there is any restriction of FD diagram not using during discussion, no, you can do it, but that was the initially supposed to be done. And my mind map is normally being used when the discussion is happening. They do this, they actually solve the same purpose as such. Then there are group decision making techniques. So I think most of them you are already aware of them. This is a unanimity. Unanimity means all the people in the group agree to one solution. Many times we reach it, many times we do not. This is the best way to make the decisions, but it is difficult to get. So everyone agree to one thing, that may be a little difficult to achieve, but it is the best. Majority means vote by vote democracy. Plurality means if you are not reaching to, if a group is not reaching to some decision, then you can form a subgroup and give the power to that group to make the decision and go ahead. And dictatorship, you know everyone, right? It doesn't require any kind of discussion. This is also a good way of reaching to unanimity. And it looks like a unanimity.
Most effective.
Fastest actually. Least
No, if nothing
effective,
works,
but faster.
If nothing works, many dispute, or somebody has to take a decision, and that circumstances we sometimes do the dictatorship. So this is not always advisable.
This should be advisable that use as less as possible. Probably never. But if you are running out of time and something has to be decided, then do this. But there are various ways of doing dictatorship also. You can push the people, you can also explain them, okay, let's go ahead with this, we can discuss it again. So that is like more involvement of the people, better the decision is, or stable the decision is. Dictatorship often makes some people unhappy, and that is the risk to the project. Why unanimity is slowest, but there is no difference of opinion at the end of the day, so you get cooperation from all the people. Dictatorship, you don't get the cooperation from other people. There are fair chances. And there is a degree in all the other places like majority, plurality, that some people may not be happy with the decision and they may not support. But in the first thing, the people normally support because they have agreed by will. Question and surveys are the same as I just explained you during the Delphi technique. It is normally used with some of the techniques of the group activity, group creativity techniques. So questionnaire is also of a way to collect the ideas and then use one of the group creativity technique to sort those ideas. Observation, you might have seen observation like this. You are migrating a software, suppose, from one platform to another platform or to a new technology with the same functionality. Now your customer can say, come to you and say, I don't have any requirement document, I don't know what all is there. You look at the software and run it and and make out your requirements. So that will become observation. So you ask someone to operate it and note down it. So the product is available. Product is available. You can watch the product, you can observe the product and note down your requirements, and later you can produce that similar product with the different technology. Now, normally this is the way. Nowadays there are tools which that are run on computer in the background, and whatever the operator is doing, they keep capturing on the screens and information what the operator is doing. That way you create a kind of movie that what is happening, and you can watch that movie and collect the requirements. Prototyping, I think you have a very good idea that when to make it more clear to the stakeholders that what exactly you want. So many times writing words are not enough. So you create some kind of prototype, some kind of model, some kind of things which will make it easy for the stakeholder to understand and approve your requirements. Benchmarking, I explained you that you may do the benchmarking against the competitor's product. Context diagram, document analysis. Like context diagram is normally some kind of like you are preparing some kind of diagram besides the documentation, so that it has become easy to understand, and document analysis is something the documentation is available. You read and collect the requirements, and plus if these documents are affecting the requirements, then take care of those documents as well. You come out with a requirement document which contains all the type of requirement: functional, non-functional, quality, business rules, etc. Performance related, availability related, project related. All requirements should be mentioned in the requirement document. The second is traceability matrix. Anybody has any idea what is the traceability matrix?
Yes.
What is that?
Traceability matrix is actually is a document which maps the all the work products. I mean, starting from requirements to design to the final product. So all the elements are mapped. So in a way, I'll give you an example. For example, there was a bug at the requirement phase, and it is later on discovered while at the execution phase. So actually the bug was injected at the requirement phase because requirement was not clear. So at the execution phase, if you get you recognize that there was a mistake at the requirement phase, then actually the fallout is a lot more. But if you catch the actual problem at the requirement phase itself, you have to pay less costs.
Right.
So it is a kind of a document that maps all these phases.
So what is the benefit of this?
So it will help you understand the root cause of your problems.
It helps us in root cause.
Yes. And also manage the requirements and the deliverables better in terms of quality.
There's something else there, which is the most important for traceability matrix. Anyone else want to add in? What you are saying is right, but the purpose is not to identify that the root cause, but
basically we have the mapping. So entire mapping will go from the requirement to final product. If anywhere anything fallout is there, that will be easy to get particular missing piece. So requirement is there, then high level design we have properly done or not. Each requirement, high level design is mapped or not. If that particular high level requirement has been mapped to the design or not, and then if design is there, then we have done the proper coding corresponding to that to design. Then further, if we are doing the testing, So did we do the proper testing, and accordingly we did the UAT and customer acceptance and all. So this entire flow, just taking the one requirement particularly, entire flow can be traced taking the using this matrix.
So what is the main benefit?
You ensure that you meet the actual requirement.
You meet all the requirements. You have not missed
Yes.
out any requirement at any stage of the project life cycle.
Yes.
Correct.
This is the main purpose. The main purpose is that no requirement should be missed out anywhere. So in the requirement phase, design, development, testing, deployment. So if you say R1, R2, R3, then you can say in design section 1.2.3 actually address the requirement R1. 2.5 address the requirement 3. 4.2 section 4.2 in design addresses requirement 3. In the development you can put the file name actually .java or something like that, .net or whatever, that this file xyz.java actually addresses the requirement R1. This file the coding in this file actually take care of the requirement 2. Then the testing 1.3 test case 1.2.3 is actually for R1. The test case 2.4 is for R2. The test case 3.5 is R3, is to test R3. So every stage we are ensuring that requirement is taken care of. So there is no possibility at the end of the project that any requirement is found missing. Though it can also be used to help in identifying the root cause. Because if some problem is there with a specific test case, suppose this test case failed, so you know this test case was actually for this file, for this design and for this requirement, it is easy to track back and identify the defects, root cause of the defect. But that is also a purpose, but that is not the primary purpose, I will say. So once you collect the requirement, you to define the scope. Now, as I said earlier also, the same here. Many projects you will find that the scope is defined first and then the requirements are done. In many projects, it would be reverse. First requirements are collected and then the scope is defined. So it is not necessary that always defined scope comes after requirement. It can come before also. Here the sequence is given as the PMI think this sequence is better, but this is not mandatory or necessary. What we are trying to do in define scope is to ensuring that what is in the scope and what is not in the scope, which is out of the scope.
Basically, we're deciding the boundary.
Which basically defining the boundary like this, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And once this define scope define the boundary, and requirement should be encapsulated in this boundary only. This is not in the scope. This is out of the scope. Only this part is in the scope. So within that boundary. So if you, for example, if you say, I want a pen to write, so you can tell that I need a pen. Now, if you say I need a pen, a hell number of things are possible. Then you say I need a ball pen. Then it reduces the scope to only ball pen. Okay, so your boundary is a ball pen. Now, if you want a very specific ball pen only of blue color, you say I need a ball pen of blue color, means outer the writing of that should be blue color. So in that it should write blue. right? If you want to be more specific about it, I need only a 6-inch pen, then you can say it, the length of that should be 6 inch. So when you define this within this boundary, the other person, the manufacturer or the project manager is free to define his own requirement within that particular boundary. So if you say it should be blue color writing, it should be 6 inch, it should be a ball pen, then he can say, okay, then he can come back and ask the question from the top, from the outer side, you want a plastic pen or you want a metal pen, like the cover should be metal or plastic. Now it is not defined here. This is what we call requirements, that going within the boundary of that, now you have understood it's a ball pen writing blue and it should be 6 inch, but other things we need to define. That is called requirement. I will go and say I will prepare a plastic pen, a pen which is cover is plastic. Now I am making an assumption here that nowadays only plastic cover is popular, so customer is looking for plastic one. But here it should be my mistake. I should go and ask the customer that are you looking for a metal pen or a plastic pen, and let him tell you what kind of pen he actually looking for. From the outside, can I make it red color or blue color or black color or 2 colors or 3 colors? You can assume and you can ask them. In collecting the requirements, you ask the user and get those requirements.
In such a, I have
Yes.
A question here. In such a case, following your example, I have seen it practically. For example, when you say that we are taking a pen example, you say you want a plastic cover or a metal cover. Okay. Sometimes the client would say anything. Okay. I don't care. So in that case, I think it's my decision to make whether I want to do a plastic or a metal. And I personally find out that plastic is cheaper than metal, so I'll go for plastic. Is that the right decision to take?
If customer says anyone will work, then you are free to take decision. But
Okay.
It is good idea you let the customer know your decision
Okay.
before you produce it.
So I'll tell him, I'll inform him that I'm going for plastic.
Yes.
Okay.
Let him know that we are going for plastic. Should be written in our requirement document that we will manufacture a plastic pen. And he must actually.
That is very true. That is very true. Even doctors, client says anything doesn't matter. So even that also has to be documented, because what will happen, it may happen later when we give the ready product, they say no, so actually I said anything, but I was expecting something else.
Yeah.
So it's always better to get it documented.
Correct. So your decision should also be documented and let client approve that.
Okay.
Yes, the client should be aware of this. Approved.
Yeah, aware and let approve. The requirement should be approved. You say, I have taken decision that we will produce a plastic pen, and let him say, I am okay with that. That is the right way. If you do not tell anything, then over a period of time the things may change. And then where that most of the tussle happen, actually this is the place where we are taking assumptions, we are taking our own decisions on behalf of customer, and the problem is that we are not informing him. If you would have informed him, it would be a much better scenario. But we also have to understand that anything else you are doing and you have not asked the customer is not responsible. So if suppose I taken the color as granted, like the plastic color, the color of the outer surface, taken for granted, I made a red color pen and it writes blue. You say no, but or you assumed that because it's writing blue, the cover color should also be blue. and you didn't tell to the customer, and you produce the plan and then give it to the customer, and customer can say, no, yeah, it doesn't look good here. Why not you produce that? Then you can, if you say you didn't tell me earlier, then he say you also didn't ask me earlier.
Yeah.
They're the thing. So customer is not responsible to answer the question which is not asked. It is we should ask the question and then customer should respond. So that this is a place where most of the struggle actually happen, and most of the discussion among the customer, between the customer and vendors normally happens. So it is vendor's responsibility to collect the requirement. It's not customer's responsibility to explain everything to vendor. Another reason is that a vendor is expert, understand more than customer. Right? So there are various things, tools, product analysis, alternative identifications are normally like facilitated workshop. Facilitated workshop means bringing people together and discussing about that what should be there. And because a scope contains complete project, so normally it happens through cross-functional subject matter experts. Alternative analysis, if a specific thing is not possible, then what are the other ways of doing it? Because the way you produce things can also be a requirement. It's not necessarily producing things, but the process of producing the thing can also be a requirement. And that way, if we have identified 3 different ways of producing the same thing, we should be clear that which process actually we need to follow. Not saying anything is not same as saying like something or not like or approving your decisions without knowing it. So if the customer has not said anything, it doesn't mean that he has approved what you have thought of, because he doesn't know. The product analysis is all about the analyzing the product in the subject, and we should analyze it and try to find as many requirement about the product as possible. So when we say define the scope is about what is the product scope in what is the product feature in a scope, what are the product features out of a scope, what is the project work in a scope, what is the project work out of the scope. Right? And you come out with a project scope statement, and project scope statement actually contains what is in scope, what is out of the scope with respect to product and project scope both, the list of deliverables, the list of things which are not part of the scope, the acceptance criteria for the product, the acceptance criteria for the product. There can be an acceptance criteria in the requirement document also, but that acceptance criteria is for the requirements, individual requirements. But here when we say define a scope, and in this we narrate acceptance criteria, we are talking about accepting the final product. And documenting the assumption and constraint, this is very important. Whatever you make in the project, if you are making some assumption and there are constraints, please document them in the document. Because all assumptions are subject to risk actually. They may or may not be right. Okay, so you get in project scope statement in the narrative form, which will clearly define what is in scope and out of the scope with respect to product and project, and what is the acceptance criteria. Once you have defined the scope statement, you have gathered the requirement, you have defined the scope state, you have defined the scope. It is now you have all the function and features of the product, but But in the project, in the scope statement, the work is defined at a higher level. Now create work breakdown structure will do, it will decompose those higher level deliverables into smaller and smaller pieces, so that it becomes the project, those pieces become easily manageable, right? A big task may not be that manageable, so you have defined some scope and then you decompose the scope in the project work into smaller pieces. Right, so you subdivide the main deliverables or the high level deliverables into smaller pieces, so that it becomes manageable. Why we are subdividing? So that it becomes manageable, easily manageable. What is easily manageable? There is no definition of easily manageable. There is no definition of easily manageable. Everybody has its own, has a different level of easiness in doing something. And what you get is the scope baseline. Scope baseline consists of a scope statement which is produced in the last process plus the work breakdown structure. Right? And how we do decomposition? Let me show you one. Look at this picture. So this is how we are subdividing the main deliverables into smaller deliverables. So there is a couple of ways of doing it. The first method, that is you see this one. The first method is, first divide the project into phases. I say I have requirement and this is design. So project is broken into phases: requirement, design, development. In the requirement, I say it is requirement document is the deliverable, and the second deliverable is traceability matrix. Okay. Now in the requirement documents, it could be functional requirement, it could be non-functional requirement, it could be UI related requirements, it could be other things. And then if we are not, if it is not such a big project that I divide the functionality further, then I can mark this as a last node in the tree, and this will called work package. The last node in the tree, you will see the last node in the tree is called work package. This is what we need to produce. So if we produce this and this, then the deliverable 5.1.2 is complete. If we have completed this and this, our deliverable 5.1 is complete. So we need to work only at the last node in the tree, and we call it work package. And work package should be so small so that it is easily manageable. It is neither too big not too small. Too small is also a problem. Then it becomes overhead. It increases the overhead if we are subdividing too much. Too much decomposition is a problem. So we do a moderate decomposition where we think we are comfortable in managing that piece of the work. It could be guided by like that. It is easily manageable, plannable, it is easily estimatable, it is easily allocatable, it is easily trackable. I will say if you have a monthly review cycle, every month you review, then a work package of 1 year will not be a good idea. I think a work package of 2 months, 3 months, maximum 4 months should be fine, or a half month. If you make it 1 week or so, or smaller, then it is not be a good idea. Maybe a half month to 2 months, 3 months should be a good idea, because in one review cycle, the change, suppose you have two months work package, a work package we have got 2 months, and you after 1 month you do a review. That means the work package should be complete by 50%. which is a significant achievement. Now, it is easily can be seen in the project that it is 50% done or not done. You need not to have a very minute scale to understand it. So it becomes easily. Or you can make a work package such that you can give it to a team. This work package for team A and this work package for team B. So it becomes easily allocatable. The second approach of decomposition is we do not go in the phases but decompose the project directly into deliverables. So deliverable 1, deliverable 2, then sub deliverables up to work package. Or third approach is that if project is too big, divide this into smaller projects and then take either this approach or this approach. Or any other approach, it's not constrained with this approach only. What is important here is that the work package, this WBS, whatever we are creating, we apply a rule of 100%. Rule of 100% means all the work which is required to be done in the project must be there in the WBS. And we should not entertain any work which is not part of WBS. So the work is not there in the WBS, it means we should not do it. And if there is a work in the WBS, we must do it. So it is a rule of 100%. So if you identify a work which is not in WBS, don't do it until unless you include this in WBS through change management process. And then do it. So that is called the rule of 100%. Rule of 100%. It should be, the decomposition should be necessary and sufficient. It should enhance planning, managing, control. Too much decomposition could be a problem, would be non-productive, you can say. Who you need? An expert person who has knowledge and skills to do this. What you get is scope statement, which was the output of define scope process, the previous process. Then the work breakdown structure, and the third thing is work breakdown structure dictionary, WBS dictionary. What is WBS dictionary? In the WBS you have work packages, right? Now what is supposed to be done in work packages is written in WBS dictionary. So WBS dictionary has an entry for every work package and it defines various attributes like what is to be done, who will do it, when it is to be done, how much costing is there, any risk related to this, any detail if you want about a work package in WBS, go to WBS dictionary and get it. That is what it is. You can also normally give WBS number also. Sometimes called ID, WBS ID. So every work package or every part of the WBS has one ID. That is an identifier of that particular node. Right? So you see one of the example here. There is an example for WBS. It's a one level WBS. So first there is a mobile phone. We have divided into various phases: requirement, design, hardware development, software development, release, manual documentation and release. And every piece has some work packages under it. Right? This is one example. There is something called establishing control accounts. Now this will related to costing as such. to manage the costing, you might have heard about cost center in your company. Everybody has normally one cost center. The cost centers can be seen
Yes.
as cost control accounts. They are done like this, that you have a hierarchy, you have a WBS, so you put one cost account here, CC1, one cost C1, one here, CA2, CA3. That means this part of the work package is coming or this part of the WBS is coming under cost account 3. So all the costing will be done through this. So some allocation is there and the expenses also match with this allocation, with how much we are spending. Similarly, this covers only this part while this covers the complete part. So many times in a multifunctional projects, individual departments are contributing. So one work package is one department, something like that can be worked out. So this is one department. Suppose if you are manufacturing a vehicle, then electronic or electrical part will be done by some X department. The chassis etc. part done by the other X department. Engine work is done by some another department, and all these have some work breakdown structure in the WBS. And the engine work will be related to the engine department, and then there is a control account for painting etc. There is another department for steel etc. There is another department for R&D. There is another department, something like that. In the whole project, that's different segment of WBS can be attached to different control accounts. This will help to check the costing of the project. Okay, so we have we have done the planning part of the scope. If you want, we can take a break at this time and can come back, continue with the validate scope, and then move ahead. What do you say?
Okay.
Yeah, and let's come back by 9:10. It is 8:14 my thing, so within half an hour. Will that work?
Yes.
So let's say we'll resume at 9:10. So please come back by before 9:10 so that we can try to start at right at 9:10. 9:10 is the IST time. So welcome back.
Yeah, Vivek.
After the break. Now let's go to the validate scope. Or before that, any question?
Yeah, Vivek, Amitabh here.
Yes.
Okay, I have one or two points. First thing is basically when when we are doing this project scope statement which we are creating, there we are saying that we have the product scope, we have the description of the scope based on the requirements which we have gathered, correct? And also we are doing the acceptance criteria.
Right.
So you were telling, because actually I missed the link at that point in time. You were telling some acceptance criteria that is different between, so I missed that point. Here the acceptance criteria is the product acceptance criteria, correct?
Right.
You are comparing it with some else with that point. Actually, my link has been broken, so I was not able to get that.
Okay.
Get that point.
Okay. So scope statement is actually talking about the boundary, not the requirements. So it provide only high level
Correct.
requirements which can sketch a boundary, and within that boundary you can have the requirements. So in the product, the scope statement is related to the product outcome. So the acceptance criteria there in the scope statement is for accepting the product. Now there is a acceptance criteria also defined normally in requirement document, and that requirement document is for those specific requirements, that the acceptance criteria there in the requirements. People often get confused that where the acceptance criteria is of the product. So final product acceptance criteria is defined in defined scope. That is the scope statement. Is that okay?
Okay, so so you are saying that this acceptance criteria is the acceptance criteria of the product which we will be delivering to the customer, correct?
Right.
Which is defined in there. And you are saying there is also an acceptance criteria in the requirement document, correct?
Right.
That's what you are saying?
Yes. There is a possibility that.
Okay. And so.
Yeah.
So that acceptance criteria is regarding the acceptance of the capturing of the requirement, or whether we have captured the full requirement or not. So that for accepting that.
Accepting.
Is that so?
No, I think accepting the specific requirement in the project actually. So you may be achieving a specific object, a specific requirement in the project, and that there is a final outcome. So for accepting a specific requirement is what is the acceptance criteria given in this, not approval ones. What you just mentioned is about the approval of the requirements. No, it's not about that. It's about that requirement being achieved, the specific requirements being achieved, and there is an acceptance criteria for that. There is a possibility. It's not necessary that it will always be there.
So there is an acceptance criteria for the specific requirement you are saying. What I was understanding was the acceptance criteria of the requirement document as a whole. See, to justify, like now we have captured the complete requirement, and it has
that is
whatever things that is approval. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and the second point is regarding in the WBS you are explaining about the control points, correct?
Right, control accounts, yes.
Where we to control accounts. So basically to take control, so that to control the budget and scheduling, correct?
Control the budget actually, not the schedule.
Because in the slide, if you see, it is written like. I'll go to that specific slide. There is written, just a minute.
See what it says, a manageable control points where scope, cost and schedule are integrated. 1 minute.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, it are integrated and compared to earned value. So these are the description about the points. So it's an integration, it's a point where the scope schedule, but it is the control account is not to control the schedule or a scope, but only cost. And you say that each work package is associated with only one cost account, one control account. A control account is normally for managing the cost. When we come to the cost, we will come to know about it. We will more relate it. But it is mainly, it is for the cost, not even mainly. It is not for schedule or scope. Normally you have cost center, right?
And basically, yes.
So these cost centers are right this control account. And so if you are preparing if you are doing a project and some part of the project is done by a separate team which is in different cost account, then you tag that control account to that cost account there basically. So you see this part is, so there is a specific allocation to this and it's tracked against this allocation, the expenses. You got my point?
Yeah, okay. So basically, then what my understanding is, basically then this is different work packages. We can have different control points, which can have different work packages can come under different control points. That's what.
So the different work package will be in different control accounts, but one work package will always be under one control account. It cannot happen in two control accounts. One work package cannot be part of two.
Has to,
yeah.
So because it, why is it so?
I'm saying this is, let me give another example. Let me give me a minute.
Okay.
Look at this. See, there is a work breakdown structure. Let's say you are, what do you do in Reliance? What is your normal like projects look like? He was talking about number portability, some kind of things, right?
Correct.
Mobile number portability, right? Now mobile number portability.
Correct.
Now there are various departments who will be participating in, right? Can you give me idea of those departments?
Correct. Okay, one is say networking department. Network.
Okay, let's say network.
One is the IT department.
IT.
Which is software development.
Right.
IT. Then you have the planning and service delivery department, which is basically plan and service.
Let's do planning.
PSP.
Okay, now
planning and service
the networking, there are a lot of,
and then we have the business.
Yeah, let's see 3-1. Networking, there are other parts to be done, right? In IT, there are various things to be done, like while networking will do some configuration of bring some new equipment, IT will develop some kind of software, right? Now they have a separate cost account, they have a separate cost account, right? Let's say this cost account is 4015, this cost account is 4141, let's say. Okay. Now all the under this node, whatever work you are doing, that is related to this cost account 4141. And under networking, whatever work you are doing, that is related to 43515. Now you have a budget of, say, let's say 1000. You have divided that there is a work of 500 in IT, the 300 in networking, maybe the opposite, and 200 is there in the planning. Okay. Now whatever work is happening here in the development of the IT side, that will be compared against the work that is happening. So all the expenses accumulated against 4141 and the allocation to 4141 is 500. So your tracking is happening against the 500. Though at the project level, the tracking happen at the for the 1000. Similarly here, now
Okay.
in a WBS, one work package cannot be part of two nodes, right?
Correct.
Or
Correct.
there will be no person who will be, or there will be no work which will be having an ambiguous thing. It is either of networking or either of IT. If that is the case, we have to divide this into two pieces, IT separate and network.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, this is how. So we have put a control account at this node, networking. So there is some work, but it is a network,
Okay.
but it is done by networking department. So under all the cost under
Correct.
it will be managed against this cost center, and there is a specific allocation to this cost center.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not clear.
It is like that.
Thanks.
Any other question? Okay, so let's move to the next one, that is a validated scope. So in the validated scope, what we are doing here is we get a verified deliverable and check it for completeness, that whatever defined in the scope is all done or not, and then after that taking it to the through inspection. What we do, we check the verified deliverable for completeness, we call validated scope, and then take it to the stakeholder or customer to accept it. What is verified deliverable? So when in an execution process the deliverable is produced, right? Now that deliverable is taken to the quality control first. So it goes to the quality control where it is checked for correctness. In the quality control it is checked for correctness. So correctness checked deliverable is called verified deliverable. Then it comes here in validated scope, do the inspection, and the inspection is for completeness. Inspection is for completeness. Now once you do this, your deliverable is correct and complete. What the next step? The part of the validated scope is to, after checking for completeness, you go to stakeholder and ask him to accept. There is an acceptance criteria. Using that acceptance criteria, that person will accept. So either the customer will accept, or the vendor or the stakeholder will accept, or you will issue a change request. So either this will happen or this will happen, right? So for every deliverable this is to be done. First is to be verified by the quality control, then it comes here validated for the completeness, and then taken for the acceptance. So if somebody says what is the main purpose of validated scope, the main purpose of validated scope to get it accepted by the customer or a stakeholder. Either they will accept it or they will raise a change request. Now when we say validated scope, the work performance information is also there, right? Work performance information is an analysis of plan versus actual, that what was actually planned, how the deliverable is supposed to be, during inspection how we have found it, and then what is the difference. So we are collecting the work performance data during execution, correct? That data comes here, we check it, and then give a information about their variance, how much variance is there. Variance in the matter of the product with the deliverable, which is outcome. Like this was the scope of this deliverable this much. That is these are the feature and function which supposed to be part of the deliverable, but you didn't find this same, and it is little less, and that less is actually the variance. So you find some functionality missing, you find some feature missing, and you can say, or not working properly. So those are things are part of this. So though not working properly, that is actually we checked in the quality control for correctness. Here we normally check that if all the feature and functions are part of the deliverable or not. Right? This is the main purpose of validate scope. So if you see work performance data, here the work performance data is related to degree to the compliance with the requirement. So whatever the specification provided, is this same as the specifications or not? And inspection means you do it, inspect it, review it, audit it, walk through. These are all names, various names of actually looking at the deliverables and doing a review. Accepted deliverables by the stakeholder or a change request, and what is supposed to be produced and what is actually produced, the variance in that. So if there is a change request, there will be some variance in the work performance information. Now the control scope.
Vivek,
Yes.
there is one question.
Yes.
Yeah, in this last step, that is validate scope, in the tools technique, we see the group decision making technique.
Yes.
So what's the role here?
There could be many reviewers. There could be more.
So basically for the verifying the scope?
For verifying the scope, right? So then you need these group decision making techniques if there are more than one reviewers.
And then come to consensus.
Come to the consensus, or take a decision. Either way, consensus is best. Consensus means unanimity.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
It's about the inspection part. We say also called review, audit, and walkthroughs.
Right.
Okay. Is there a difference, because these terms I have seen that they are often interchangeably used? Like for example, review and audit. What is the difference between a review and an audit?
Technically, if you go, there could be audit is more a little more formal word as such. Normally external, audit is normally external and look for the come from more from the compliance side. Like you have a process, are you complying with the process or not? Normally we use audit. We have planned it this way, and if are you matching the plan or not, that is an audit. Review is normally done you have a product outcome, some document you have produced, and you are checking for the document, if this document is good enough or correct. So reviews are normally looking for that the level of it's supposed to reach, or it is correct or not correct, something like that. While the audits look for the compliance purpose. Is this complying what is already understood before that? Mainly related to the process or the planning side of things.
Okay.
But they are often interchangeably used, and many times people will be doing review, they can say audit. Many times they are doing audit, they can say review. So it's very difficult
Yeah.
to distinguish them, but audit is normally look for compliance and review is look for correctness or the reaching to a grade level, basically quality.
Okay.
Walkthrough is a more detailed inspection. Now initially in the work breakdown with the scope in the creative work breakdown structure, we created a scope baseline. Okay, so what all work to be done, what are the all feature and function in that, and WBS dictionary, all three together make a scope baseline. Now in the control scope, we talk about how we are performing on our scope baseline. Deviation from the scope baseline is called variance, which normally come in the work performance information, and various analysis is that part, that what was the scope originally defined and what is the scope. Now uncontrolled changes, if you have put into the system some changes which were not originally defined and now they are coming like as an outcome, then this is not as per the scope baseline and this will produce a variance, and we often call it a scope creep. As such, this variance should be zero, but many times the things are very gray. On one side you can see that it should not be part of the project, but on the other side team member thinks that it is part of that, and without much clarification he produced it. So you find a variance. Many times you think it should be a part of the scope, and team member or other person who is producing didn't see this as a part of the scope, didn't produce it. Some kind of implied or things which are not so clear, or maybe sometimes you can say between the line. In such cases what happens, you have less than what you have defined and more than what you have defined, and that is what is the variance analysis we need to do and report this in the work performance information. So work performance data will say what you have actually produced. Project management plan will give us what actually supposed to be produced and we do a variance analysis and figure out is there any variance or not. If there is a variance, it come out in the work performance information. If there is a variance, we raise a change request to correct it. The whole process is about this. So it is controlling the scope baseline is what it is. Why the validated scope is inspecting the deliverable and seeing that it is correct and getting it accepted by the stakeholders. Assess the magnitude of variance from the original scope baseline, determining the cause and degree of the variance and coming out with the corrective and preventive action. This is what is all about scope. Any question?
So just to verify the understanding, my understanding, basically what you are saying, in summarize, if we have to summarize, what we can say, validated scope is basically more of a correctness and completeness, and control scope is more of a variance. Is it correct?
Right, from the defined scope baseline.
Yeah, from the scope baseline.
Right.
Correct. So when we are saying validating the scope, we are saying the correctness and completeness of the scope. When we are saying the controlling the scope, we are saying whether the variation against the scope baseline.
Correct. So when we talking about validate, we only check for completeness. Correctness is checked in quality control. But input is verified deliverable. That means it is already gone through quality control. So it is already working as complete correctly. Only thing we need to check that all the function and features which are supposed to be part of this, they are there or not. If they are there, you go and get it accepted by the stakeholders. Right? Now you can.
Okay, I have one question. This is about WBS. Okay. As far as my understanding went so far is that WBS is a method of breaking down the actual requirements to the smallest logical unit so that the requirements are granularized, right?
Not requirement, but the work of the project.
Work of the project, yes, okay. Work of the project is granularized. So this work breakdown is actually an essential input for my estimation.
Yes, it is input for almost everything in the planning.
Right. So it is not an estimation technique, right?
It is not an estimation technique. Some estimation techniques are based on WBS. They are called WBS.
Okay. Okay.
Actually,
but in any case, no matter what estimation technique I utilize, for example, I have heard and read but never used something called function point. But WBS is any case is an input criteria for even if I go for function point, although I have never used it.
See, work breakdown structure is mainly for the planning purpose. To plan out the project, and it is input for almost every plan. Whatever you do, you do scheduling, WBS is required. You do costing, WBS is required. You do human resource management, WBS is required.
Yes.
For all the planning,
the
WBS is required, including estimation. Estimation can also be part of it. So every WBS also participate in estimation. So in many estimation, it will be a one-to-one relationship, like directly WBS can be used. And other things you may need to little customize it to fit into the requirement of the estimation technique.
Okay.
But this will reduce the complexity, basically reduce the complexity of the project.
Okay.
Okay, so you can go to the question answer section, and attempt 15 questions of scope management. Right, it is 289. Okay, so let's review these questions. What about question number 1? All A. Good. What about question number 2? All A. Question number 3. D, 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 D. Okay. Question number 4. A, B, B, A. Okay. The project manager has just been assigned to a new project and has been given the preliminary project scope statement and the project charter. The first thing the project manager must do is create a project scope statement or ensure that all the stakeholders have had input into the scope statement. Okay, so A and B. So I will go back to the same principle. A project manager has just been assigned a new project. He has been assigned a new project. So he has just taken over a new project. Something is given to him, that is a preliminary project scope statement, and second is project charter. What should he do first thing? So if something you have taken up the first time and something is given to you, what do you do first?
B.
B. You check first whatever is done correctly before you acting on it. So A is basically an action and B is actually evaluation of the process as of now, how they are done. Therefore, B should be done first before we do A. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But in the charter, most of the thing has been covered. Maybe because the person have the project charter already.
Right. So he has to verify that whatever charter is prepared or preliminary scope statement what is prepared is right and just correctly produced. And then only he can go ahead with the action, isn't it?
Okay. No, I took it like this, like with the project charter is there. So the boundary and the requirement has been defined there, and then now he has a preliminary project scope statement as well. So now he will go for the final creation of the project scope statement.
I agree with you that maybe charter is approved and seen by some senior person, but that may not be the case with the preliminary project scope statement.
Okay.
What about question number 5? BBAA. The scope baseline is an output of create WBS. This is a simple thing. You can look at the slide of create WBS. What scope, define scope is the output of define scope is scope statement. And create work background structure also create WBS and WBS dictionary. And scope baseline is a combination of scope statement, WBS and WBS dictionary. So we define scope, only produce scope statement. Then create WBS, produce WBS and WBS dictionary. Only then we can baseline the scope. And therefore, scope baseline is an output of create WBS. What about 6? CBBC. We are preparing a detailed description of the project scope and identifying what in the scope and out of the scope is scope definition. This is actually what the definition is given is the scope, define scope. The scope baseline is consisting of WBS and WBS dictionary also, therefore B is not correct. And so in that way 5th and 6th are related. So most probably if you have incorrectly attempt the question number 5, you also incorrectly attempt the question number 6, probably. What about question number 7?
Can you explain 6, please? I didn't get you. The link was breaking.
Okay. See, this is preparing a detailed description of the project scope. So preparing a detailed description of the project scope is actually scope statement, and identifying what is in the scope and out the scope. So defining what is in the scope and out the scope is the scope statement. And scope baseline is consisting of scope statement, WBS and WBS dictionary. So WBS is an expansion of what is in the scope with respect to work. Therefore B is not correct.
Not correct.
Yeah, C is correct. The definition which is given is actually definition of defined scope, not baseline.
So what is in scope and out of scope is a part of scope definition.
Scope definition. And in the scope with respect to work, we expand in the WBS and divide it into this. It is based on scope statement. Make sense?
Okay.
Okay. What about question number 7? Question number 7. D, B, B, D. Okay. Validate scope can be best described as the process of. So what is validate scope? The purpose of the validate scope to get it accepted by the stakeholder. See, in the validate scope, we do not check project objective. We are not checking project objective. Right? In the scope, validate scope, we don't check project objectives. We check the completeness and then take it to the stakeholders for the acceptance. So the output, if you see, of the validated scope is accepted deliverable, not the validated deliverable. It is an accepted deliverable. That means validate it and then take it to the stakeholder to get it accepted. Obtaining a stakeholder formal acceptance of the project of deliverable is the primary purpose of this validated scope.
Okay.
What about question number 8? Okay, B. Okay, what about question number 9? Question number 9. Okay, see, the similar question came in the last session also. I think I'm not sure it was integration or it was framework. Basically, it was in integration. It says that you are facing several changes. What should be wrong? So we are facing changes because our planning was not good. Similar thing is here. You say you have completed 6 months on an 8-month prolonged project is on time and budget, within budget. When you are reviewing deliverables made by project team with stakeholders, they are not happy and suggesting many changes. Which of the following process is done properly could have prevented this situation? First of all, it is talking about suggesting several changes, which is indicating that some planning process is not right. Second thing, it was asking if done properly could have prevented the situation. That means those issues will not be there altogether. So in controlling the scope, you figure out the changes. That is the validate scope. If you do, A and B are more or less same. Like in fact, A is not related to this. Only B is related to this. A is not right because A is against the baseline of the scope. Is not validating or checking the deliverable. So checking the deliverable is validate scope. Even if you do validate scope, you figure out some problems, issues, and that changes you will issue. So it is not prevention. You can only prevent things by acting on the plan, isn't it? So one is prevention, another is that they are suggesting many changes. It means what was defined earlier, what was committed to them earlier, and what is produced now, there is a difference. And therefore, if the scope definition is not right, if scope definition was right, this problem wouldn't have occurred, isn't it? Whenever we are facing many problems in execution and control, that means there is some planning process we have not done properly. And the only planning process in A, B, C, D is C. All other are controlling process. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's go for 10. B. Okay. Question number 11. A, yeah, this is very straightforward, right? Question number 12. all B. Okay. Question number 13.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
It's about the previous question.
Well,
I was actually, although I selected B, but I had a doubt. I thought D was a better option,
both A and
both
B.
A and B.
You saying both A and B?
I
Yes,
think
right.
that is a better option, both A and B. But I've chosen B, but I think that I'm not very clear why D is not a
A
option.
function that are to be included in the product is called as the product scope. That's the definition of the product scope. So it can't be a project scope.
Actually,
A is
your
the definition
your
of product
observation
scope.
is right as such. But when we talk about specific to product scope and project scope, we talk about B. In general, we can talk about a project scope, then A may also be included in this. But so distinguishing between project scope and product scope, we have to select B. Your observation is right that project scope include product scope as well.
Yes.
So that is right, but if somebody is specifically asking the project, what is project scope, then we should we should only select about the project scope. However, I agree that the question number D making it is little more ambiguous. The option D is making it ambiguous actually. I think if B
Yes.
is not there, some other option would be there, then B will be a clear answer.
That's true.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
As per definition is correct, very clear is B.
yeah.
But if you look both the options, it's even I was thinking about D, but D looks more appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about 13? D. Okay. What about 14? C, right? Question number 15. It should be D, actually. Whatever. It should be D. Because brainstorming, Delphi technique and affinity diagram, they are not decision making techniques. They are group activities actually.
Group activities. Yeah, that's correct. This straight goes with the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be
Okay.
D.
Okay. Why? Although I had thought of D, but I chose D. You know why?
Yeah.
I think it was maybe quite of intentional, maybe a trick question, because group activity technique is a very general term,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even a sport activity is a group activity. Even a playing games is a group
Right.
activity. So I thought maybe group decision making technique is more specific. That is why I got confused.
Okay, but decision making techniques, I think we had discussed about that unanimity or by voting or nominal group and the dictatorship. These are the group decision making techniques. Therefore, and these come out to be group activity techniques.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are like precise answer, very like closely looking at it. That will happen when we go through this stuff couple of times and attempt such questions but a few times, then I think this clarity will come.
Okay.
Okay, good. So let's go to the next chapter, which is our time management. Give me a moment. So time management is all about delivering project on time. So taking care of time, and a simple thing we can say, you might have done scheduling. Time management is all about scheduling. That is completing the project on time. Probably the longest chapter in a whole PMBOK. Quite calculative also, and there are various method, tools and techniques are in various part of it. The first thing is schedule management plan. Schedule management plan will help us to do the rest of the 6 activities, that is how to define activities, how to sequence them, how to estimate resources, how to estimate duration, develop a schedule, and how and what frequency control the schedule. 6 planning process, 1 controlling process. This is the overall flow of preparing a schedule. First, put up a schedule management plan. The plan schedule management will produce schedule management plan, which guide us for rest of this from 6.2 to 6.7 activities. So first step in that is defining the activities. Now you have work breakdown structure, right? You have work breakdown structure. You have work packages. And define activities. What you need to do, define activities which are required to be performed to produce this work package. Define all the activities which are required to be performed to produce this work package. That is what define activity under each work package. For each work package, we have to define activities which we need to perform to develop this work package. Once we define the activities, the next step is to sequence them. That is, I have A activity, B activity, C activity, D activity, and E activity, and I sequence them like this. Right? This is sequencing. Then I will go for estimating activity resources. Estimating activity resources means for each activity I find out what kind of skills are required, let's say Java, and how many numbers, two developers, or this is one architect, or here one supervisor, 5 labor and engineer. So we need to identify what kind of skills are required at and in how many quantity and how many of them are available. So therefore we do a lot of alternative analysis also in this. So we need one engineer, but that engineer is not available. What do you do? Find alternatives and say, okay, let's take less experienced engineer or 2 engineers less experience. Something like you need a senior engineer, but you don't have, so let's take 2 junior engineers and help them with the senior engineer who will be part-time there. Something like you have to identify alternatives based on the situation available to you and figure out the final resources available on each activity. Now once you have resources for each activities, you can check how much time it will take. So A required 2 Java developer. Now with 2 Java developer, how much time it will take? Say 5 days. With 1 engineer, 1 supervisor, 5 labor, how much time the D activity will take? Say 10 days. Something like that. We need to estimate the duration of each activity. And putting them all together, we prepare a schedule. And with that schedule, we do some kind of optimization, like identify critical path, doing some simulation, apply some lead and lag, do some crashing, fast tracking, and seeing that the final schedule should be worked out and approved. So the schedule baseline will be output for the developed schedule. And then on a regular basis, as defined in schedule management plan, we need to continuously look at the schedule, update it, and optimize if required. That is what controlling schedule. So developing schedule and controlling schedule are more or less same, with the same activities, except that the being a controlling process, it has a change request as an output. Work performance information is one of the output. Besides doing all those activities which we have done initially in the developing the schedule. So with the project management plan, project charter, you prepare a schedule management plan. You need a person who has experience and knowledge in preparing a schedule. Some analytical techniques can be used depending upon, because you know what kind of things and techniques are.
So one
Yes.
In this developing schedule, it is basically putting all the things together. Any means still when you develop a schedule, is there anything which we need to take care of or something, or it is just like putting all the things as you said?
Okay, say it again. What?
I am not very clear on that still. I'm still not very clear.
Okay, in developing the schedule?
Yeah.
Developing, let me go back. Developing the schedule is basically what we are doing is we have sequenced the diagram, we have identified the people, we have identified the duration. So basic schedule is ready. Now in the developing the schedule, basically it's optimizing and giving it a final shape. Right, the basic schedule is ready. So now we need to identify critical path, see the total duration of the project, comparing it with our objective. Suppose the schedule is come out to be 7 months while we are looking for 6 months. What to do? So kind of crashing and fast tracking we need to do. We need to add some lead and lag as applicable. We need to identify critical path and see that how we can optimize that critical path to reduce the overall duration. Doing some kind of simulation with respect to schedule. So you produce the schedule multiple times. So in the schedule development will come there, but basically once all information is available, we can play with the schedule, with the primary schedule, and optimize it and take it to a place where it is accepted by all the stakeholders, and we can baseline it. That is the schedule development exercise.
Okay, so and then okay, so this I got now. So then controlling schedule is basically the variance against the schedule, or
controlling schedule is every time on a periodical basis checking that what was planned, how it is done, what is the variance, and how we can optimize the schedule to reduce that variance. That is controlling the schedule.
Okay.
Okay. So controlling the schedule and developing schedule, there is not much difference, except that in the controlling schedule there is a variance, and develop schedule is basically creating the first baseline, and then controlling schedule is checking against the baseline what actually has happened, and how if there is a variance, how we can remove the variance or reduce the variance. So all those techniques which are required for developing schedule are also required for controlling the schedule. We will check in developing and controlling the schedule. So we will prepare a schedule management plan, and schedule management plan basically what is a system which can help us to develop the schedule. So what kind of model we are going to use, what was the level of accuracy we are going to use, what is the unit of measure, means should I measure my time in days, weeks, in hours, or in months, whatever it is, in which unit I will measure, how are we going to maintain our schedule, what is our schedule controlling thresholds, is the 5%, let's say 0 to 5% is, or -5 to 0% is green, 0 to 5% is amber, and 5 to 10% is red, or above than 5% it is red. So such a kind of threshold we can define. We can define some rules of performance measurement, that what is, when we call that the schedule is well in control. Reporting method reporting format we can finalize, what information and what format we will report. So all these things, whatever is required to develop a schedule, is normally put into the schedule management plan. Now defining the activity, just look at the example. What is defining the activity? Develop cash flow. So there is a module. For that, what we have identified, this is a work package. That is a part of the WBS. Now for this, we have identified 6 activities: prepare a specification, coding, unit testing, code review, code rework, and a milestone called development completed for this module. So this is we need to do for every work package, and PMI call it decomposition. I do not agree with this decomposition, because decomposition means breaking down. So in case of WBS, I agree that it was a decomposition, but in case of activities, we are actually identifying, not decomposing the work breakdown structure into smaller pieces. Scope baseline you see here. Scope baseline is basically work breakdown structure, right? And one term which is called rolling wave planning. What is rolling wave planning? Anybody have any idea? Anybody has the idea what is rolling wave planning?
It is something similar to progressive elaboration, wherein as and when you get more details, you can as and when you get more information, you can plan in more detail.
Okay. So what do you say is like when you get information?
Progressive kind of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Progressive. So progressive kind of, when we go ahead and start updating on this.
So as we move ahead, we can plan in detail. So this is the timeline.
Correct.
I scale, make a window. Suppose this is 12-month timeline. And I have created a 1-month window. So I will say whatever coming into this window, I will put this in detail. So it is coming in the reference of defining activities. So I say I define the activities only for the tasks which are, or only for the work package which are falling into this window. If my review cycle is 15 days, so after 15 days I will push this window by 15 days. So these things will also come under window. For them also I will define the activities. And after 1 month this will be the case. Then I will define the activities for this portion, right? Normally what happens, as you move into more and more information you come to know. So it's not surprising, or it is not very unlikely that this window size actually increases as you move into project. So for first week it will be difficult for you to even plan for one month, but after 15 days you may be in good standing for the planning for the next month, complete month. And then after 1 month you may be able to plan for even 2 months possible. And after 1 month you like, suppose your requirement is done, your design is also done, I think you are in a very good state to plan up to 6 months or so, or maybe after 3 months or so you may plan up to 12 months. Or if you have if you are doing a project which is quite, you are very experienced in that, you have done such projects quite like a couple of times, you may not require this approach altogether, because you know the activities of all the work packages. So you, in the first shot itself, you can define all the things. So this rolling wave planning normally applicable where you are doing a project for which you do not know much. As you move into project, you get to know more and more, and whatever the information you're getting, based on that you can plan as much as possible.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of, let's say I'm giving an example of software development, these methodologies.
Right.
So can I, am I okay if I say that rolling wave planning is not a waterfall model, and it is neither an agile model, it is somewhere in between?
As such, I will say it is nothing to do with agile or waterfall.
I mean, because what I mean is, because you are not planning for the whole project right in the beginning, so you are incrementally developing it.
Right. So it is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to map to my existing knowledge.
Correct. So it is something like, you can talk about agile model. Probably it is closer to agile model. And
okay.
The other thing is that, like, suppose I started the project. The first phase is requirement. Maybe I know what is to be done in requirement, but unless I know requirement, I cannot do the design, right? So what I do, I only plan for requirement. For requirement, I plan very much in detail, but I leave the design part. Where I have considerable requirement in my hand, I can work on design. So I start planning for design. Where I have complete requirements, I can fully prepare the plan for the design. If I have some considerable design done, I can plan for the development, right? This is one way. say. And when you have complete design in your hand, you may be in a very good condition. You can plan the whole development thing, or even after that. Now it is similar to agile one, we can say, because there we are taking some requirement, implementing them, then taking another requirement, then implementing them, then taking another requirement, then implementing them. So that is also can say that agile cycle. Let's say you have a 1 month sprint, then it is your rolling wave planning window is 1 month. In that 1 month you plan everything very detailed, but you do not plan for the next sprint. So that is also be considered as this way, like agile model is very close to rolling wave planning, or maybe this is natural in the project, that as you get to know more and more, you can do more. So rolling wave planning and agile model may be very much aligned to each other in that manner.
More fits there for the agile.
Sorry?
It more fits there for agile.
Yes, it is fitting more with the agile.
Iteration. Yeah,
In fact,
each iteration.
we can say that agile is a rolling wave planning method, maybe something like that.
Correct.
It shouldn't be wrong as such, if we can say this.
But it is definitely not waterfall.
It can be waterfall also, but in waterfall you plan like first requirement. Once you get the requirement, then you design. Then when you get the design, you can plan for development. In waterfall also it may work. Only thing is that the way it is working with agile is different. Agile goes through complete cycle in 1 month. In waterfall model, it runs only for like one phase at a time.
Okay.
If either the entire project, it's a long project we are talking about, so I think in waterfall, then rolling wave may not be fit that much, because requirement as scope, everything has to be baseline. Then after that only we have the schedule, and then we can go ahead further. And because we are every time based on the information, we are updating our schedule. So in this case, rolling wave may not be that appropriate in waterfall.
The rolling wave may apply in the waterfall also, because suppose I was starting the project, first thing is to do the requirement. Okay, so I can plan out for the requirement because I know what all things need to be done. But now I don't have the requirement, so I'm not sure what is to plan in design. But if I get some requirement in next 15 days or 20 days, I will be in the position to do design planning also. So that way it is applicable to waterfall model as well.
Yeah, that is small phase. The particular phase it can be done.
Yes, so
Not
you
everything.
plan one phase at a time,
Because
something like that initially, and it is normally required initially. Later, most of the stuff you may get off from the rolling wave plan also, once you get to know completely about the project. It is not necessary throughout the project you stick to rolling wave planning. That way you define the activities. Now what the output you will get? Activity list of activities, because you identify activities for that. Then activity attribute. Activity attributes are same as WBS dictionary. The WBS dictionary is talking about what is to be done for WBS, the work package. So everything about work package, it is there in the WBS dictionary. Similarly, activity attribute defines that the specific activity, that when is to be done, who will do it, what is the name of the activity, predecessor, successor, any lead or lag applied on this. Something, so all the description about the activities are defined in the activity attributes. And definitely at this time we get more milestones in our schedule. So like I said that developing a package, I ended the developing package with the complete the work, right? If you see here, you see that I add a milestone here, development complete. So this way you can add some more milestone in the project based on a group of activities completing, and that is a major time is passed or there is a major achievement. Once you have identified the activities, the next step is to sequence them. And the tool which we normally use it for sequencing them is the precedence diagramming method, also called PDM. There is also one called ADM, that is arrow diagramming method, but that method is actually obsolete and not used nowadays. You determine the dependency and based on in the PDM, and based on that only you prepare a dependency diagram, also called project network diagram, which is an output of this process. So you get activity list, attributes, milestone, the scope of the project, and with the help of PDM you prepare a network diagram. How the network diagram look like? It looks like this. This is a typical network diagram. It shows the dependency that E depends upon D, B depends upon D, F depends upon E and B, G depends upon F, B depends upon D and A, H depends upon G. So it is also called a finish to start dependency, and it is also called AON, that is activity on node. So activity we are showing is on node, not on arrow. So PDM, I will say the activity on node, or say activity on arrow, or arrow dynamic method. So this is now obsolete, basically not used nowadays. With the help of duration on each activity, we can identify the critical path. Not now, but it will help identifying the critical path. Now when we talking about relationship, the dependency among the various activities, we have normally 4 type of dependencies, or 4 type of relationship among the activities. The first is finish to start. You see that there is a activity, B depend upon A. Simple. A and B both can start at the same time. So as soon as A start, B can start. B can start later also, but cannot start before A. So A starts, B can also start. Similarly, A finishes, B can finish after A, or as soon as A finishes, but it cannot finish earlier. So this is called FF, finish to finish, start to start. Both can start at the same time, both can finish at the same time, but dependency on finishing on A. And the 4th type is, which is normally not so practical, is start to finish. That means some activity has to start to finish the other activity. So start of A will finish the B. So normally that is not so practical. It's a very rare use. Your whatever project you develop, normally 80% of your activities will having the dependency as FS. And some situation it would be SS and FF, which will be normally used in a very specific situations. It's not very common. So most of the activities normally which we apply is normally FS, the finish to start, the sequencing activity, simple sequence, one after another. But you remember there are 4 types of dependencies: FS, finish to start; SS, start to start; FF, finish to finish; and SF, that is start to finish. Yes.
Will it be okay for me to say that, can you just, the last one, SF, okay?
Yes.
As you mentioned, it's rarely used. Okay. For example, let's say I'm planning for something and I have a successor, predecessor, and I have planned for resources and everything, but the resources are not available, so I can't actually start my task. So is this an example of SF?
The resources are not available, therefore you are not able to start. So you depend upon resources, right?
Yes.
So it is FS.
It is an FS, right?
Yeah, acquisition,
so
FS. Acquisition of resources,
it's an FS,
and
right?
then starting the work.
Yes.
As soon as resources are acquired, the work can start. This is FS, first one.
Okay. So I was just trying to think what can be an example of SF.
I have not any practical example of this. Normally I ignore these.
Yeah, exactly. So that's maybe one of those things.
Right.
I've never seen anything like
I
this.
do a lot of Microsoft project trainings also, and I have never used SF so far.
But it's available, right? So
Yeah, it is
this
available.
must
You
be
can,
somewhere.
yes, you can do so. It is available. Okay, so there is so these dependencies normally fall into two categories. One is mandatory dependency and the discretionary dependency. So mandatory dependencies, which are hard logic and the soft logic. The hard logic means if you are building a roof, pillars are required. So without erecting the pillars, you cannot work on the roof. So that is a hard dependency. Even you want, you cannot. But there are 4 pillars. They can be done in sequence, they can be done in parallel. So this is discretionary dependency. Suppose I decided to do in sequence, I need only one resource. So this is my discretion. And tomorrow I decide that, okay, let me do in parallel, let me get more people. So if there are more people available, I can get more people and can do all 4 pillars in parallel. They are not so independent. In that way, such kind of dependencies are discretionary dependency, which I decide to do this way. There is no compulsion on me. So when we compress the schedule, when we do the crashing of the schedule or fast tracking of the schedule, normally discretionary dependency is the dependency which we normally reevaluate. Should we continue doing that way or should we change it? Some are external dependencies, that is external to project, or internal dependency, which are internal to project. Another thing called leads and lag. Do you know what is lead and lag? Anybody can explain? What is lead and lag? Anyone?
Yeah, lead is like this. Any activity can start before its predecessor can start. Predecessor can be completed.
Predecessor finished.
And
that is lead.
correct. And the lag, yeah, and lag is basically waiting for the next start to start. So if there is a gap, that is we can say the lag.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
So lead means dependency is like that. B depend upon A. But what I did like this. This is A, this is B. I started before dependency get over. Before the predecessor get over. And so what I have done, I have taken a lead. Suppose A is 5 and B is 6 and this is 2 days. So I have taken a 2 days lead on dependency from FS dependency from A to B. Or opposite of this is lag. This is A and I will say this is B. For some reason I have to wait. Even the dependency, the predecessor is over, predecessor is completed, but I cannot start the successor for some reason. Suppose this is 3 days, I will say there is a 3 days lag between A and B. How this can happen? Suppose I say we erecting the pillar, from very next day we cannot start the work of the roof because cement need to be settled down. Suppose it takes 3 days to settle down, then the pillars are completed, but still I have to wait for 3 days to start the next work, that is roofing. So if A is pillaring and B is roofing, then this 3 days lag is actually normally lag is mandatory, is imposed on us, and the lead is discretionary, we normally apply. Okay, unfinished good is there at one place. If finished good is to be done on another site and it takes 3 days to or 5 days to transport the unfinished good to the new site, then the new site depends upon the old site work, but there is a lag of 5 days because it takes 5 days to move the product, half finished product to the next site. Okay, so in this way we get 3 days of or 5 days of lag in that case. They need to be applied because they are necessary, and if we do not apply, our end date may not be right. If we apply such things, they looks like this. The same network diagram we have applied leads and lag. So here what we are saying, the E will start 1 day after B starts. So there is a start to start relationship between E and B. What is saying that E will start on the same day B starts? No, but 1 day after. So E will start 1 day after B starts, not finish, B starts. Similarly, if you see here in this place, the G will start 2 days before F finishes. So if F finishes on 20th day, the G will start on 80th day. Similarly here, if the B finishes on 10th day, then C will start on 15th day. So this way we can apply the leads and lag and optimize our dependencies and schedule. The next is activity resource estimation. So what we will do actually, let's close for today now. It is almost 10:55, coming to 10:55. I don't think I will be able to complete this estimate activity resources. So I propose let's close for today, and we will start from estimate activity resources from on tomorrow morning, and we'll complete the time management part. It's question answer, and probably in the second half we will take the costing part, the project cost management, and their questions and its questions. Will that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll resume tomorrow at 7 a.m. IST. Right?
Yeah.
See you tomorrow. Thank you very much being here. I hope you are getting intended thing. If you have any feedback, intermediate feedback, please feel free to drop me an email. Okay, or you can call me. Feel free to call me also. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.